Hello, everybody. Welcome to Chapter 9 Legislation, the Client's Rights, and Your Rights. In this chapter, we are discussing about different rights and responsibilities because rights and responsibilities they go together. Basically, we are focusing about what are the client's rights in the healthcare settings and what are the rights. Your rights means what are the rights of the personal support worker. So basically, both these rights are significant in our professional life and we need to learn them one by one. Let's begin the discussion. The foundation. In the foundation of good client-worker relation, it is also called therapeutic relation. It is a good relation between a support worker and the client. And these relations are the understanding of each other. A good relation is maintained only when the two parties, the client and the healthcare worker, they have the ample opportunities to understand each other. And because of this understanding, they can establish a good relationship, which relation is not personal but professional. It is also called therapeutic relation. That is goal-oriented. That relation exists only when we work with that client. So, let's begin. This understanding support workers' right. We are focusing here what are the support workers' right, what are the clients' right who are living in the long-term care homes or in the community settings, and what are the legal responsibilities as a personal support worker, how we are legally responsible to fulfill our duties, our assignment. Let's begin the discussion from the client's rights and the boundaries. These are the client's rights. In the Canadian healthcare setting, both in the setting or the facilities and communities, all the healthcare consumer who are the healthcare client or the patients in the hospital, they have so many rights. And their rights are stronger than our rights. And again, there is a boundary. Because if there is no boundary, people can enjoy the rights forever. There are certain boundaries everybody has to maintain. Let's begin the discussion from the ethics. What is an ethic? In the previous classes also we discussed about the ethics in chapter 8. Ethic is concerned with what you should or should not do. This is what is the ethics. We are ethically concerned when we work as a support worker. We must know what we should do and what we should not do. And legislation is a body of law that governs the behavior of country's residents. In the whole Canada, across Canada, east to west and south to north, all these legislation that governs, that is controlling, governing means controlling, that governs the behavior of country's residents. Legislation tells society what it can and cannot do. Make sure that all the clients receive safe and skillful care. See here, their rights are our duties. If we fulfill our duties, they receive what they receive. They receive safe and skillful care. This is the ultimate goal of these fundamental rights, the healthcare consumers' rights here. And these rights of the client, it protects the client's privacy. Privacy is very important for everybody. Everybody, they don't want to let other people know their medical conditions. There are all other conditions related to the financial, personal, and so on. So the legislation of the country that governs the behavior of the country's residents, at the same time it protects the client's safe and skillful right of getting cared and getting protected, and it also protects the client's privacy. Court protects clients and support workers' right. Court, the court of law, it protects the client's right and support workers' right, both the rights the court protects. Client rights and boundaries continued. A right is something to which a person is justly entitled. The person is supposed to do it. A right is something to which a person is just entitled. Moral rights are based on a sense of fairness. When we say morally fair or fair share, that's all about the moral rights. Moral rights are based on the sense of fairness and ethics. Both the ethics and this moral rights, they are working here. But legal rights are based on the rules and principles. Remember, the moral rights and the ethical concern are two different things. Again, there is another rights we are discussing today is the legal rights are based on the rules and principles. These are made by studying the public interest and interest of everybody, outlined in the law and enforced by the society. The law has enforced these legal rights because it is dealt in the court of justice. That's why it is enforced by the society. This is the biggest thing. I don't know how many of you are already aware of this, the Canadian Charter of Rights. This is a big document that protects all the Canadians' fundamental rights and freedom. This is the very big document. Because of these rights, we are allowed to speak. Is the freedom of speech is guaranteed by this Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Federal legislation, it's the central government, central legislation. Federal legislation that applies to all Canadians regardless of where they live. So federal legislation that applies to all Canadians regardless of where they live. All these Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedom, all Canadians, no matter which side of the country they live, they are free to enjoy those rights and freedom. It lists the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedom. It lists the basic rights. It has given the rights in point. The basic rights and freedom, what are the freedom we are entitled to enjoy, to which all Canadians are entitled. The right to equality. All people must be treated equally in regardless of their origin, their culture, their religion, their ethnicity, their background, their back home background, no matter what part of the country they live. All people, all Canadians, they have the right to equality, means they must be treated equally without any biasness, without any racism, without any discrimination, and so on. Without discrimination based on the race, ethnic group, color, religion, sex, age, or mental or physical disability. This is the biggest right. Remember, we as a personal support worker, we have to be careful. Anybody belonging to different race than our others, different ethnic group than ours, different color, maybe different color in terms of the origin of their countries, sometimes the religion, sometimes, remember, religion is again one of the most important area to focus, to know, because care is provided in compliance with the religion and culture, sex, age, or mental and physical disability. For example, we are working with some clients who are mentally disabled and who are mentally dysfunctional. Their mind is, because of the disease process, they are not being able to make the good decision in life. Their life is being miserable day by day because of the chronic mental diseases. Again, we have to realize here that no matter what mental condition they have, we have to protect their rights. They will claim their rights later on. Their family member, their power of attorney, the person who looks after their care procedures, all the people, other healthcare worker except the PSW, they are there to protect their rights even if they are mentally dysfunctional. Or physical disability. Even people may have certain physical disability, but they must be enjoying their rights. And to let them enjoy their right, we have to fulfill our responsibilities because their rights is our responsibilities. If we do not give them proper care, if we fail to comply with the responsibility, our scope of practice, they cannot get their rights. They are deprived of their rights. That's why it is very serious because it goes to the court of law and the legislation, the federal legislation and the provincial legislation and all other Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedom. They cover, they protect the client's right. So for several other clients' rights, please go to page number 130 and read all the rights one by one because these rights are asked in the exam. It must be a great source of knowledge. And when you go as a professional in the workplace setting, you will be asked in your interview, what are the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedom? That's why I highly encourage you to go with the textbook and follow the lecture together. Basic rights of people receiving the healthcare service. Again, this is also called the Canadian Healthcare Consumers' Right. The basic rights of people receiving the health services. All people in the different healthcare setting or the community setting means the client's own home. They are receiving different health services and how they enjoy their rights when they are getting their health services. The Human Rights Act, there is another Human Rights Act in Canada. Act of each province and territory are intended. The main intention of those human rights acts in the different provinces and territory are prevent discrimination. We cannot discriminate our client in terms of their age, their sex, their gender, their religion, their culture, their ethnicity, their origin, their color. They are protected by these basic human rights acts and promote and advance the human right. This Human Rights Act also promote and advance human rights. If there is certain discrimination, some biasness, some other mistreatment to the client by healthcare worker or nurses or doctors, their right will protect them, and everybody who misuse their power, who are neglecting their duties, who are abusing their power, they have to reply. They have to reply in the court of justice. Basic right of people receiving health service continued. Laws governing healthcare have different titles across the country. There are laws governing healthcare, like the doctors, the colleges of doctors and the colleges of nurses. They have their own type of laws and responsibility. An act is another term for the specific law. Certain law, specific law for that particular purpose, that is called an act. Most healthcare acts consist of general requirement for maintaining the health. Every healthcare act, the prime focus of those acts is maintaining the health, safety of the client, and well-being of our clients. It's not our rights, it's their rights. At this point, we are discussing about the client's right. the rights of the healthcare consumers who get the service from the healthcare settings in the healthcare organizations. Basic human rights in Canada. All residential facilities like long-term care homes, nursing homes, and retirement homes, or the hospital, or any homes in a province or territory must be abide by the rules. They must be following the rules, supporting the rules. If they do not, if they do not comply with the rule, if they do not abide by the rules, this could result in the removal of their license. This could be very, very bad experience for them. They would be removed from the license. There are so many news by the CNO, Colleges of Nurses of Ontario, so many nurses and sometimes even the doctors and mostly the PSW, they are being responsible for their act everywhere in Canada and everywhere in the world. Healthcare workers, they are responsible for their work. It's called accountability. They have to be responsible what they do. That's why if anybody misuse their power, they have to face these things in the court of justice. Concern is for the rights and freedom of the people using healthcare services. The main concern here is what? The main concern is for the rights and freedoms. The rights and freedoms of people using healthcare services. Who are using healthcare services? We are helping. Our clients are using healthcare services. Bill of Rights. Manitoba and Ontario have created a Bill of Rights for the client. Remember, all clients are protected by the Bill of Rights. There are so many rights. Some facilities and agencies write their own bills of rights, how to protect the client's right based on the provincial and territorial laws. So in the bills of right, let's summarize. In the bills of right, as in Manitoba and Ontario, they have created the bills of right. It means the client who live in the long-term care facilities, who live in their own community setting, in their own home in community setting or other different facility, they are protected by different rights. For example, right to get informed about their treatment process, right to know about their privacy, right to enjoy their privacy, right to get proper care, empathetic care, culturally compatible care. There are so many rights. So these rights are based on the provincial and territorial laws. Bill of Rights. Generally, all clients have the following rights. See, right to be treated with the dignity and respect. Everybody has a dignity, and everybody deserves respect. Right to privacy. Everybody has a privacy. Everybody wants to maintain the privacy. And confidentiality. Health information. People don't want to share their health information with other people. That's why we have to maintain their privacy. I ask you one question here. How do you maintain the privacy while providing morning care as a personal support worker? Go to the room, knock, knock, knock at the door, communicate very nicely in a professional manner. Good morning, Mr. A or Mr. C. I'm here, my name is this, and I'm here to provide you care. And you begin your conversation in a very pleasant way. How was your last night's sleep? And I'm here to give you a partial bed bath. Are you ready for that? And you just take the consent. You get the permission before you touch, even do anything else. And when the client says, okay, then you can start your job. And you have to maintain the safety. You have to always focus on the safety because safety is number one priority. And before you do the morning care, pull the curtain there and do not let any other people in the area you are giving care. Do not allow anybody. If anybody must come, has to come to help you, then you can ask with the client. You can get the permission from the client and only let the people come there. Another is right to give or withhold informed consent. Informed consent is a kind of permission. Before doing any medical procedure, any kind of activities with the client, we have to ask with them. If they say okay, then we can do. If they say no, we cannot force, because they are protected by their right to withhold, means stop. Even if they have said okay, they can change their mind in the process of treatment or in the process of giving them care. They can anytime refuse the ongoing care. That's called withholding the informed consent. They have the right to do that. And right to autonomy. Autonomy means what? It's the self-regulation. They can do, they have the right to do so many things. See here, residents' bills of right. Number 1 is here. To be treated with the dignity and respect, participate in making decision about your care. You have to ask the client, how can we care? What is your expectation? Yes or no, we have so many things. No, who will help you? Clients have the right who is helping you. That's why your first duty is to introduce yourself. Hi, my name is blah blah, my name is this, and I'm your PSW today. I'm here to help you. They need to know who you are and what you are going to do with them. Yeah, that's very important. These are the information. And no abuse. There are so many type of abuse. We will be reading later on other chapters. There are so many type of abuse. And if you do any kind of abuse, if your activity is considered any abuse, you have to reply, you have to face in the court of law. You have to pay for that. Privacy, see, while using the bathroom, you have to close the door for them because they are weak, and we have to protect their dignity, their privacy, their confidentiality, like this. I encourage you to go to page number 132 and 133 and 133 to 134 that says Ontario's Residents' Bill of Rights. There will be so many questions in your examination of this, and Ontario's Bill of Rights for the community care clients. One is community care, where it means you are caring the client in home situation. Here is a facility where the client live in the long-term care homes or residence home. So both of these rights will be in your examination, and every day you must know in your fingertips. That's why, once again, I encourage you to go through those page numbers and read them. Dignity and respect. Remember, dignity and respect, every person has a dignity. We have to protect their dignity, and we have to respect the people. This is our professional manner. All we are working with the real human beings. They have a great experience in life which we do not know. They have spent so many decades in life which we have not yet. That's why they deserve dignity as a human being, as a more experienced people, and we have to protect their dignity, and we have to show our respect to them. Being treated with dignity and respect is the guiding principle of caregiving. A personal support worker, a caregiver, a healthcare worker has the guiding principle of supporting their dignity, and the principle is called DIPS. D means dignity, I means independence, P means preferences, what they choose, and another P means privacy, and S means safety. Dignity, independence, preference, privacy, and safety. It's called DIPPS, DIPS, which is the abbreviation of those bigger things, and this is the principle of caregiving. What is the principle of caregiving? DIPS is the principle of caregiving. And what is the full form of the DIPS? D is a dignity. We have to provide their dignity. Independence, they must be independent. We have to work on their independency. P means preferences, what they choose, what food they want to eat today, what dress they want to use wear today. We have to respect their preferences. Privacy is what type of situation, what type of private situation they want. We have to respect their privacy. If they want to talk with their family member, if they have certain secret of their own personal life, we don't have to disturb for them. We have to respect them, what they want. And safety is always the number one concern. Respecting the client's dignity and independence is a basic and important part of support work. Remember, respecting the dignity and independence is always the basic part of our work. Treating a person with dignity provides emotional support and greatly contributes to the quality of life. Go to page number 136, and that explains how you protect their dignity and their rights. And you will understand in a broader way that every personal support worker, they have a responsibility to protect the dignity and to provide the respect to all our clients, no matter which setting they live, which setting they are. They may be in the facility or they may be in the community. Privacy and confidentiality. Right to receive care in a way that does not expose their body unnecessarily. When you are providing personal care, do not expose the body you are not working. Hide the body with the blanket, with the with the towel, so that you can work in the certain specific area. For example, you are providing pericare, cover all the body from from the chest to the abdomen and work on those areas. When you finish the working there, again, cover that part, because nobody wants to show their body parts to other. And we personal support worker, we are not their friends or not, we are not their family members. We are not their loved ones. We don't have anything to do, any role to play in their personal life. Still, we are touching them. Still, we are exposing them to uh, to to help them, but we have always a boundary. So what extent we can go, we always have to minimize their exposure of their body parts, which is expose their body parts, not exposing the body parts unnecessarily. Only those person involved in the person's care should see the person's body. Not other people can see the person's body. Only only you, the PSW, we, the healthcare worker, we have a chance to see that. And the chance to see that is the only region that is providing them care, providing their comfort. We give them some time massage, we clean them, we pat to dry them, we put certain oil, we put certain ointment, we put certain cream, we protect their skin level. That's why we have to work with that. That's why we have the responsibility and we have the duty to work with that. That's the only reason. Do you think anybody except the healthcare worker can do that work? Can see the others exposed body parts? No, never imagine. That will be considered completely abuse, and people will pay for that. Uh, Information about the client's care, treatment, and condition is confidential. As I already discussed about you, every client, they want to keep their information regarding what type of care they are receiving, their treatment process, and what is the condition, their health condition, what disease they have. All the diagnostic and lab tests are confidential. You cannot share this information with anybody. except the team at the moment you are working, even the second floor or third floor people, PSW, they can't discuss about their client in a facility. They cannot talk anything about their clients. So page number 137 gives you more idea about respecting the client's right and the right to privacy, how we can maintain their privacy. Electronic privacy. Electronic privacy has developed when we have seen the electronic documentation in the healthcare setting. That's why we have to protect our password, our username, and everything. Electronic privacy is person's right not to have his image. One is not to have in his image words, characters, description, or comments about his reputation made public by electronic means. You cannot put client's information as you want. For the healthcare working purpose, there may be something electronically, some information about the client. It is definitely has, but for you have to protect the person's right not to have his image or words, character, description, comments about his reputation made public by the electronic media. You cannot post any picture or any comment of the client in Facebook. If you are caught by doing that, you are out of your profession. Definitely you will be out of your job. You will be never working as a PSW because legislation is protecting their rights. It is wrong both ethically and now legally in most provinces to post pictures, names, and discussion about your clients. Never ever do those things. Informed consent. It is the permission you get from your client before you do anything. Client has the right to decide what will and will not be done to his or her body and who can touch the person. They always have. Like, be empathetic. If you want somebody touch you, touch body parts in the same way. If they want us to touch their body parts, yes, but you can get the permission for that. This is called informed consent in healthcare field. Always take the permission, which is called informed consent. Clients need to understand the reason for the treatment. They must know why this treatment process is going on with that and what will be done with that and how and who will do it. They have the right to know about it. This is a Bill of Rights. Client need to understand an expected outcome and treatment option. What will happen after going to that surgery or this type of treatment process? What will happen to me? The client has the curiosity to know about that because we cannot put them in a total blank. They have to know what's going on with their body. That's their right, and we have to protect their right. Our responsibility is to protect their right. If we fail to protect their right, we are not doing our duty. Continues, all provinces and the territories have legislation that describes when and how consent is to be obtained by the client. Generally, in the hospital setting and long-term care homes, nurses have to take the consent, but the doctor is taking the consent and nurses just help to the doctor. And in the long-term care facilities, nurses are taking the consent. And while providing morning care, we have to ask for the consent. Are you okay if I touch there? If I do it, is it okay for you? You have to ask. For consent to be valid, it must be informed consent. You have to let the person know that you are doing this thing. That's called informed consent. If you take the consent without letting person know what's gonna happen and what you're gonna do it, it's very difficult for the person to give the informed consent. It means to give you the permission. That's why you have to let the person know what's gonna happen first, and then the person will give the consent. If the person does not give the consent, what happens? You cannot do anything. If you forcefully start doing something, you are violating their rights and you are in a problem. Consent is informed when the person clearly understands the reason for the treatment, procedure, and care measures. What type of treatment is providing, they are getting, what is the procedure, and what is the care, what kind of care they are receiving, they must know first. What will be done, they must know before they give the consent, permission. They must know how it will be done. It will be surgical or non-surgical, and they should know who will be doing it. And they also expected outcomes. What is the result, the consequences of those medical procedures? They must know it. Potential risk and side effect of the treatment. They should know what is the risk and side effect of the treatment if they undergo the treatment. And they also know what will happen if they do not like the treatment, if they don't want to go with the treatment, other treatment option, the likely consequences of not having the treatment. Yeah, this is what is the same thing. And they also know if they don't want to do those medical treatment, what will happen to their body. They must know the both side of the aisle. We have to let them informed. Advanced directives, little bit new concept for you. Advanced directive, this is a care directives, what type of care is being provided, also known as advanced care directive, legal documents that allow clients to convey their decision about their own end of life care. When they are end of life getting the receiving the end of life care, their legal document, the power of attorney, and the legal people, they are working for this. The lawyer, everybody is working together for this advanced directive. And the living will. Living will is another concept. What is living will? Living will is a document that allows clients to convey their wishes to accept or refuse the medical care, to accept or refuse the medical care to sustain their life, or legally enforceable, or not legally enforceable. This is called living will. They have the rights to express their wishes to accept or refuse the medical care to sustain life. Substitute decision maker, another big concept of the power of attorney, as I told you, it's called POA or proxy. It allows a person to make a decision for another person who cannot give consent due to the inability to understand. When somebody is sick, Mr. A is sick and Mr. A has a neurological or mental health disorder, Mr. A cannot make a decision for his or her healthcare decisions. Therefore, maybe somebody, maybe the daughter of Mr. A or the son of Mr. A or the other family members of Mr. A or wife of Mr. A, who can be the power of attorney and who helps to make the decision about Mr. A's healthcare decisions. Decision maker. Parent or legal guardian gives consent for the client under the age of 18. Legal guardian means the government has the responsibility, the guardian. The role of the guardian is taken by the government in this situation, and here is the parent. If the parent are there, they will take. If not, legal guardianship will give the consent. They will give the permission for the client under the age of 18 years age. They are high school kids or the before the 18 years of age. Responsibility party, responsible party, substitute decision maker gives consent for the client who are mentally. See here, responsible party, substitute decision maker gives consent for the clients who are mentally incompetent, who are unconscious, and who are sedated. Before the surgery, they are sedated, or they are confused because of the Alzheimer's disease or dementia type of disease, who are confused, who make the decision. It is the substitute decision maker. And substitute decision maker is already mentioned in the paper. Who will be the substitute decision maker? He will or she will make that decision. A consent form may be required. An RN or PN. PN means practical nurse, registered practical nurse. RN means registered nurse. RN or PN obtain these consent. The client has to sign, or the substitute decision maker has to sign. A support worker is never responsible. See, this is the biggest point here. A support worker is never responsible for what? For obtaining the written consent, written consent, or giving medical information. We are not supposed to do these things. Property. The client may have a property and there is a will for that. Legal document that states the person's wishes about where or whom his property should go. After the death of the person, who will be the receiver of those property? It is written in the will, and the lawyer will prepare those will. Estate or trustee. Guardian of property carries out the instruction of the will, a person who acts on behalf of the client in regards to the property. In most cases, the estate trustee is also the estate trustee. Trustee is also known as the executor or executrix for the property, for the handling of the client's property. Autonomy. What do you mean by autonomy? It means self-decision. Clients have the right to participate in the assessing and planning their own care. They can plan their own care. They can make their own decision. That's called autonomy. And the treatment. They can choose different treatment treatment protocols. A personal choice is important for quality of life. If a person has given the right to choose for the personal matter, for the person's own health, it is also the dignity, and we provide them the self-respect. If we provide them the freedom of selection, freedom of choice, if they can choose what type of modality of treatment they want, it is also the dignity and self-respect. You must allow the client to make the choices whenever possible. And our role is to make the client choices. We support worker. We have a limited work to do. We can ask them for their what time they need that care, and what time they need to do what they want to do at what times. We can always ask them. Asking is never a problem, but imposing our own style to them is a bigger problem. Legal issues. So in the workplace scenario, we may have to face different legal issues. If we are careless, we will be facing those legal issues. Laws tell you what you can and cannot do. Definitely, there is a legislation. We have a scope of practice. There is a boundaries, what we can do and what we cannot do. It is laws tell us. It's not somebody who tell you. It's a law. It's a public law that protects the clients. A law is a rule of conduct made by the government's body. Liabilities. If you break the laws or violate somebody's rights, you are legally responsible. You have to go to the court of justice and you have to pay for that. Criminal laws are concerned with the offenses against the policy and society in general. If you violate certain criminal laws, you are getting the criminal charges. That's why you have to be careful. Civil laws are concerned with the relationship between the people. So there are different laws. One is a liability. If you break somebody's rights, you are the general laws, the bills of right of the client, it includes. Liability includes the bills of rights of the clients. This is a criminal laws and this is a civil laws. Every moment, if one of them is violated, you are supposed to go to the court of justice and you have to pay for that. You will get the charges against those, and you are penalized for that. Therefore, healthcare worker, as a personal support worker, we have to be very much ethical. We have to work with moral values, ethical, and we have to follow all the legislation. We have to know what are the legal issues connected with our activities, what are our scope of practice, what are the things we are supposed to do, what are the things we are not supposed to do. Both the aisles we have to know, we have to be aware of. Torts, little bit new concept for you. A person who commits a tort can be sued by an injured person. See here, torts. Torts may be intentional or intentional. Example of a tort is negligence. If you neglect your care, you are not providing the care in a timely manner. This is a beautiful word, timely manner. You have to go 7 o'clock in the morning for the morning care. You cannot go 12 o'clock in the afternoon and give the morning care. That's a tort. That's a negligence. And every negligence in the healthcare setting could lead to the life-threatening condition of the client. And for the safety of the client, all the torts are very severely interpreted, and the person has to be accountable of those torts, those negligence. Example of intentional torts are assault, battery, false imprisonment, invasion of privacy, and defamation of the character. If you try to defame the person's character, if you are making somebody a characterless, something like that, it's called defamation, and it's considered torts. Negligence. What is negligence? What is considered negligence? Means the person did not mean or intended to cause the harm, but somebody is harmed because you didn't do the work, and because of your negligence, somebody is harmed. That's considered negligence. The negligent person failed to act in a reasonable and careful manner and thereby harm the person or the property. Because of your insincerity to the work, you fail to act in a responsible manner. You fail to act in a responsible manner. You fail to act in a careful manner. Thereby, because of your insincerity, your irresponsibility, the person is harmed here. The person is harmed, and the person's property is harmed. The negligent person may have to pay the damage to the injured person. See, the person, when the person's health or person's property is damaged, the person, we have to pay for that if we are considered to be doing some negligence. That's why negligence, always we have to be careful if it is considered negligence or not. We have to know them. Not performing a task or procedure correctly is considered one negligence in healthcare. Not performing a task, you are not providing a correct morning care to the client, it is considered negligence. Performing a task or procedure that you are not qualified to, again, if you are not qualified and you are performing that task which is not in your scope of practice, in your job description it is not mentioned, if you do that, it is considered negligence. Making a mistake. Box number, page number 141, it lists the example of common negligence acts committed by the support worker. I guarantee maybe 5 to 10 questions in the examination, I mean the final license examination, you will be asked from those negligence and those abuses and negligence. Therefore, I highly encourage you to go through those boxes, those lists or the boxes inside the pages. In the pages, a client should be harmed. A client should be harmed even though you do your job completely. A client could be harmed even though you do your job completely. Accurately record the procedure. Therefore, documentation, it means documentation. Accurately document what are the procedure you follow. Your documentation will protect you. It's nobody will protect you, your documentation. Your record means your documentation, your record may protect you from the charges of negligence. That's a beautiful idea. Please write it somewhere. If you document the care you provide, you have to document. You will be protected by the charges against you. It is not considered negligence because you provided the care. But if you provided the care, but you did not document, and there something happened, you will be charged because nobody knows what you did. That's why you will be considered showing the negligence to your duty. You are responsible for your own action. It's called accountability. Responsible of our own action. Sometimes refusal to follow the nurse's direction is your right and duty if it lead you to do something beyond your scope of practice. If a nurse came to you and asked you, hey, can you do some catheterization to this client? I'm very busy with another client. You have to refuse it because your job description does not allow to do the catheterization. You don't have the skill and knowledge and judgment and the consequences of those catheterization. That's why sometimes you have to refuse the work. Even if somebody tries to force you, it would lead you to something beyond your scope of practice. If you do the catheterization, you are doing something beyond your scope of practice. That's why it is considered gross negligence. Assault. What do you mean by assault? Intentionally attempting or threatening to touch a person's body without person's consent. If you touch the person without person's consent, it is called assault. The person fears bodily harm. The person will complain. The person will call the police, and you will be definitely arrested. Threatening to tie down an uncooperative client in example of assault. Sometimes PSW are threatening to tie down an uncooperative, the person who does not cooperate in the care. Sometimes PSW might threaten the person, which is assault. We cannot assault the person because their Bill of Rights has protected. They can refuse the care anytime. They can withhold the informed consent. They said yes, but in between the course of action, they can say no because they are protected by their rights, and we healthcare workers have to protect their right. Battery. The actual touching of the person's body without the person's consent is called battery. Example, force feeding a client. The client doesn't want to eat. You are forcing with the spoon. You are putting a spoon forcefully in the client's mouth. That's called battery. The client must consent to any procedure, treatment, or other act that involves touching the body. The client must consent. You have to ask the client. You must get the permission from the client for touching the body parts of the client. The client has a right to withdraw any consent. We already discussed. It's a withholding the consent, informed consent. The client said yes in the beginning, but in between the procedure, client says no. It is no. No means no. We can't force. If we force like force feeding a client, it will be battery. Consent can be expressed verbally or through the gesture. Through the gesture, they will use their hands or they will show that gesture in their face, which is called facial grimacing. If they feel pain, you have to stop it. False imprisonment. False imprisonment is an unlawful restraint. You cannot restrain the client. You cannot tie the client in the bed or restriction the person's freedom or movement. You cannot restrict the person's freedom. For the treatment procedure, for the other safety, our client safety and healthcare worker safety, maybe the team of the healthcare worker may do some chemical restraint and some other restraint, physical restraint, but we are just to follow the rule of restraint. the doctors and the nurses decide, but we do not do any kind of restraint. Threat of restraint or unnecessary use of actual physical restraint is a false imprisonment. If you use your force while working with the client, it is considered false imprisonment. This is a physical restraint, is a false imprisonment, and you have to responsible for your work. Invasion privacy. What do you mean by invasion privacy? You are not maintaining the privacy of the client. That's called invasion. Right not to have the private or personal information made public without consent. If you do something, client's photo or client's information public, putting in the Facebook and other social media, you are paying them back later on in the court of justice. Invasion of privacy is punishable by the law. If you do some kind of invasion of the privacy, if you breach the confidentiality, you are punishable by law. Freedom of Act, Freedom of Information Act, it has mentioned those punishable activities, and you have to go through them. Defamation character. Defamation, to make somebody to tell somebody in a negative way, is injuring the name and reputation of the person. We cannot injure the person's name and reputation by making false statement to someone else, by talking about somebody's information to other people. Libel is a making false statement in print, writing, or through pictures or drawings. Slander is making harmful false statement orally. That's called slander. Slander will be blunder. Do not make any slander. Do not make any libel. That's the making a false statement. So this is how people can defame others. Awareness of our own role. So as a support worker, we have to be aware of what are the roles our scope of practice allows us. We have to know about that. If a support worker performs duties beyond his or her scope of practice, then these duties were never delegated and taught by the registered staff. The support worker is actually assaulting the client. This is called actually you are assaulting the client. You are physically harming the client, and you are responsible for your work when you are not never delegated, but you are doing because you like it to do, and which is beyond her scope of practice. If it is not mentioned in your job description, do not touch it. Even do not imagine of doing that. Support worker must understand the responsibilities within their role and safety act within their boundaries, which is called scope of practice. We have to know what is our boundaries, and we have to act within the boundaries. The moment we cross the boundary, we are causing problem to our professional life. Human rights legislation. Human rights legislation also protects the workers' basic human right. We are also human being. We have also human rights. It is also protected by the human right legislation. Must treat all workers equally. That in the eyes of law, all workers are equal. Must not discriminate on the basis of the worker's race. Doesn't matter you are Asian or you are African background or you are white in color or brown in color or black in color. Doesn't matter. You are equal in terms of your color, origin, gender, sexual identity, sexual orientation, religion, and disability. Workers have the right to be free from the harassment. In the workplace, there may be so many types of harassment. The most common is the sexual harassment. Sometimes client is trying to touch your body parts, and you have to discuss with the nurses and the administrator, and you have to notify the people for those type of. And at the same time, you have the responsibility not to sexually harass others. Occupational health and safety legislation. There are so many trainings for the occupational health and safety. Safety is a basic need of everybody. We are maintaining the client's safety, and our safety is also must be protected. In a safe setting, a person has a little risk for the injuries and illness. person, the more safe we feel, the less and less illness or injury happens to us and others. Person feels safe and secure. Our employer is also responsible for providing self working environment to us. If our um, em- employer is not responsible for providing the safe working environment to us, we have to complain for the legislation regarding the safety issue of our workplace environment. And similarly, we are going to occupational health and safety legislation outlines the rights and responsibilities of the workers, employers, and supervisors in creating and maintaining the safe environment. Everybody has their contribution to maintain the safe environment. Workers have the right to receive proper trainings. If we get proper training, we can perform properly. We need to get the good instruction and supervision to ensure we are working safely and we are being safe. Workers have the right to refuse duty if the work poses a danger to themselves. If something is harmful to you, you don't do it. You can refuse the work or others. If you are causing harm to others, you have to refuse the works. And it is called WHMIS. You have to get the training of the WHMIS and you have to certify it by the WHMIS. It's a workplace health hazard trainings. Employment standards legislation states minimum acceptable employment standard within the workplace. It covers the basic rules about the issues such as minimum wage. What is your employment legislation? So what will be the minimum hourly basis you get minimum wage, the money? How wages are paid? It's bi-weekly, it means 2 weeks after 2 weeks, or monthly basis, or every week. How many hours per week how many hours of work per day and per week are acceptable? It is discussed in your job description. Fair overtime pay. When you work overtime, you will pay time and half, sometimes double. Holidays and vacations day, you must be paid for the holidays, and they have the rule for the vacation. Sometimes they pay the vacation amount in every paycheck or they collect it. What situation qualify the worker for the leave of absence? Sometimes you have a uh, illness, you may have to apply for the sick leave, and because of the sick leave, you may get some benefit. You get paid even if you don't go to work. Similarly, our labor relation legislation addresses how employers and employees can resolve the workplace issue. There are so many workplace issues, some conflict may be there. Ensure that employees have the right to form or join a union. There may be union to guarantee the job. Unions are working together with the workers so that workers are not treated by the employer and workers have the fair share. Also, the labor relation legislation ensures that it sets out the rules and regulation and the negotiation, the collective agreement and collective bargaining. They will sometime work for increasing the hourly money, hourly per hour money. For example, 14 hours, maybe going to 18 hours, 16 hours. They are working for that. And it also identifies unfair labor. Sometimes some people are biased and some people are getting more opportunity. This unfair business will be stopped by the labor relation legislation or the union. We can say it's a union. If you are unionized, your work is safe, your job is safe. Workers' compensation legislation, it addresses how workers are financially compensated or accidental injuries on the job. They are paid if they have some accidental injuries. If they happen to fall on the floor and they broke their ribs, they cannot work heavy duty, still they get a modified job and they get some kind of official job and they get paid because of this workers' compensation legislation. It is protected by the laws. Discusses workers' and employers' right when an injury occurs. It also clarifies, it also has highlighted What happens when a worker is injured in the workplace? How we are getting compensated after the injuries? And other legislation, long-term care facility legislation, provincial and territorial, addresses the basic right of the healthcare worker, how we can provide, how we can be provided the support. And another is a community service legislation, sets out the rules and procedure for accessing and providing community services, including support work. These are another set of rules and procedure. They will help everybody who work in the healthcare setting. And thank you for your patience and listening to the lecture. And I sincerely request you to go through the textbook and the lecture together. It will help you a lot for understanding and preparing for your examination. Thank you and have a good day.